Hey, what's up? It's your host, Tori, and who is ready to be petty? Welcome back to another episode of RTBP. We have a very fun episode for you. Ashley from the prolific Twitter account, Ash Talks Batch, as well as her Instagram account and her newsletter is here, and we're talking all about the royal family, of course, Bachelor Nation, and Kim and Kanye, because I cannot keep their names out of my mouth. But first, I wanted to update you on a few stories that we recently covered on RTBP where there's been some new developments. So let's get into it. The first one we covered on episode 69 with Taylor. Penelope Disick has posted her first sponsored TikTok post. And I don't know, I feel like we were talking about when she first got her TikTok account, like when were the Kardashians gonna start making money off of it instead of it just being like, you know, a fun creative outlet for their kids. And the answer is January like 25th or whatever. She posted a video. It was like very in line with her other content where she was just kind of like showing / like putting a little bit of like, you know, body wash or like product on her hand and like showing the camera, which like TBH is kind of a waste, but it was very pee. There was a Scott Disick like little cameo at the end, but all of the products were from this company, which I'm not going to name the company obviously, because as they would say on Keeping Records, no free clout for the girlies. But I was really curious about, you know, like the impact of this, because obviously it's like, okay, we could just take it for face value. It's still just a child showing off some like shower products. But of course my brain is like, what's the deeper meaning? And I just thought it was really interesting because TikTok is obviously an app skewed to teenagers, and then just how difficult it is nowadays to spot an ad. Like the first time I watched it, I didn't even notice that it was an ad, because obviously it's not the classic ad anymore. Like, hey, this product is like great, you can buy it here. Like it's just not that traditional way of advertising. It was again just music and her showing off her shower products. But I was just thinking, like, I feel like I'm decently media literate, and it took me a second, but I was just thinking about all of the younger kids and teens that are watching this content who, I don't know, just might not notice. So if you have like further thoughts on that, or if that's like a topic of interest to you, just let me know and we can talk more about that. The next story that I want to talk about is from episode 70. Breezy and I talked about the rumored cast of Celebrity Big Brother, and oh boy, was this a doozy. So the cast was released today, and it is literally no one who we thought it was. Again, another Scott Disick reference on this godforsaken podcast, but we thought that maybe Scott was going to be on there, Lisa Rinna, Boston Rob, Tiffany Pollard, Jax Taylor, like a bunch of icons. And then the real cast comes out. I have written down 5 names of people I recognize. I think it's a cast of 12. So I'm going to go through them now. The first one is Todrick Hall, which he's a choreographer, videographer, YouTuber. Famously, he, I think, choreographed Taylor Swift's Look What You Made Me Do music video. I think he also was in it. And he has lots of fun content on his YouTube channel. His remake of the Brandy version of Cinderella is really, really great. But I'm excited for him to play Big Brother because, of course, there's live feeds, and I wonder if he's going to spill any Taylor tea. I will be not watching because I'm not a live feeder, but I do like keeping up on Twitter, so I'll be doing that. And then also he just hangs out and is friends with the Cookout, which on the most recent season of Big Brother was the main alliance, and like they were all excellent players, so maybe he picked up a few tips from them. The second person I wanted to talk about was Lamar Odom, which obviously is Chloe's ex-husband. I believe he's like sober now. Hopefully he's doing well. He's no stranger to reality TV. He was on Chloe and Lamar. Yeah, I'm just excited to see him play. I have absolutely no hopes for like his like strategic game, and I don't even find him that entertaining, but I don't know, just happy that I recognize someone on this cast. The third person is Shanna Mokler. I still don't know if it's Shanna or Shauna, even though I talk about her frequently on this podcast. She's Travis Barker's ex-wife. Obviously, I'm just excited because she is like explosive television. She is not afraid to like talk shit on Twitter, so I like cannot wait to see what she says in the house. Obviously, the Lamar and Shanna like 2 degrees of separation with the Kardashians is going to be so interesting. So I just wonder if both of them are going to like speak about the Kardashians, get a couple headlines. And then the next person is Carson from the original Queer Eye. I think he'll be good TV. He's like fun. I think honestly he might do pretty well. He's pretty sociable and he seems like just like a fun hang, and people on Big Brother that are fun hangs definitely stick around for the long term. And then there is Chris Kirkpatrick, which is like, it's so sad that I have to explain this, is a member of NSYNC. And let me just say, he did not age well. Like, he kept the same hair and the same like goatee as he did in the 90s. And like, this is coming from a person who was also kept the same haircut for fucking like 15 years, but it's just not a good look. Like, I think the goatee was popular in the 90s, but like it has not been popular since, but he's like still rocking it. And just like the super like fake dyed black hair, just not great. But maybe we'll get, you know, some stories from the good old days when he was like on tour with Justin Timberlake and all of those other people that were in NSYNC. And then from today's episode, we talk about Kim and Kanye, but something else happened that was like really interesting because it's from like a little bit of like Kim Kardashian's, I want to say villain origin story, because I don't know, maybe we see her as a villain. But apparently on the night of her SNL appearance, Kanye met Ray J, who Kim infamously has a sex tape with, which again was like kind of her claim to fame in the early days, and met him at an airport to retrieve a laptop because there was a rumor of a second sex tape or like more like unreleased footage from their sex tape, which was filmed in Mexico. Kanye was doing an interview and said he like met Ray J at JFK airport to retrieve it for Kim, and then it turns out that the footage was just from like clubbing and from the plane ride. Like, this is so weird, obviously, because it's like, don't they have an assistant who could run this errand for them? But then also, like, why is Kanye talking about it in an interview? And then Kim's publicist came out with a statement and said like, yeah, that like actually did happen. So just bizarre stuff all around. But I don't know, let me know what you think about that. Is there a second sex tape? Why is Kanye going to the airport? Why now? Like, why is Ray J coming out with this information now when, again, Kim's been famous for like many, many years? And then the last thing I want to say is I was on the Bachelor Wrap Up on Rob Has a Podcast talking about episode 3 of Clayton's season of The Bachelor. It was a really fun episode. I got to talk a little bit about how the Bachelor Wrap Up was the first podcast that I ever listened to. So it was kind of a full circle moment to be a guest on that podcast, because you could kind of say that Haley and Amy are why I'm here talking to you right now. So go check that out if you are keeping up with the Bachelor season. Very last thing I want to mention before we get to today's episode, I've been doing some episode temp checks on Instagram where I post questions about the episode and the topics that we cover to get the community's opinion on what's up. And it's been so much fun talking to you all. So if you're listening right now, go head to @RTBP podcast on Instagram, weigh in on all of the topics Ashley and I are going to dive into. Anyways, this was a long intro, but it's time to get to the episode. Here is my conversation with Ashley. I'm back with a very special guest, Ashley from Ash Talks Batch, a Bachelor commentator, newsletter writer, tweeter. Welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm great. I had a snow day, so I got a day off work. So I'm feeling refreshed for the first time ever.
Nice. I've had one snow day this year, even though I work from home. So it was, it was a hard sell, I guess. But I did have a snow day. They are the best,
They are.
honestly. They don't happen often in Canada because I feel like, you just have to trek through it.
Yeah.
But we've had one this year and it was really nice. So tell the listeners a little bit about yourself. How did you start writing about The Bachelor?
Well, I started watching it with one of my friends as a way to keep in touch when I moved. So like we had a ritual we still do. Every Monday we watch the show and talk to each other. And then I felt like I kept sending her too many messages. So I made a Twitter account. And then from there, like things just started happening with the show that I thought were interesting and I wanted to write about it. So I just started a newsletter. Didn't really know what I was going to do at first. I didn't really see that many people writing newsletters. So I was like, it'll be a good thing because as you know, the Bachelor world, Instagram and Twitter is just oversaturated. So I
Yes.
wanted to do something different. And whenever things happen that I think are interesting enough and like worthwhile to have something to say is usually when I write. So it's not as consistent as I want to be, but I don't want to put out things that I don't feel passionate about.
Nice. And what was your first season?
My first full season was Rachel Lindsay for The Bachelorette because, before that there weren't that many Black people on the show, didn't make it very far. So I wasn't really interested until her season and then I kind of kept going from there.
Nice, nice. Yeah, her season I feel like was a big turning point for The Bachelor. And then now I'm looking at Clayton's season. I'm like, was it? Like,
Yeah, it feels so like 2012 in like the worst way possible. It just feels outdated already.
that's so true. So are you watching Clayton's season?
I did decide to watch it, but I understand people who didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably not like watching it with the same fervor that I have other seasons, and I'm
Yeah.
definitely like going to listen to all the podcasts and looking on all their social medias and things like that. I'm just if it's on, I'm there, but I'm not really invested.
Yeah, that's super fair. I feel like everyone on the podcast is like, fuck, shut up, because we've heard this 1,000 times. But the last full season I watched was Becca Kufrin's season.
Okay.
But I'm like still so in the Bachelor Nation world,
Mhm.
which is toxic.
It
I'm like,
is.
how can I follow these people? Even yet, I haven't watched a full season for like 5 years.
Well, I think a lot of being in Bachelor Nation is beyond just watching the episodes. I
Yeah.
think the whole Twitter interactions and Instagram, like and Reddit, their whole communities that exist outside of the show that like work, even if you don't watch it, like you can still keep up with everything that way.
Yeah, and I just wish that it was like a different TV show or something.
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
like I will say, like, it's wild how it's just created itself. And you're right, like how people can be so into everything beyond the TV show that I'm
Hmm.
just like, I wish I had that for my podcast, or like I wish I had
Yeah.
that for like, I don't know,
Yeah.
just something else. But nonetheless, it's The Bachelor. I am going to be on a Bachelor recap podcast this coming week. So I have, for the first time in 5 years, watched the first two episodes, and I'll watch the
Okay.
third one, and then I'm probably tapping out from there. But you're totally right. The vibes are
Hmm.
just so 2012.
Hmm.
Like I felt transported to another time.
Yeah. Absolutely. It feels done before. Like we've already seen, not him as the bachelor, but we've already seen a season that'll be similar to this. The girls are like the villain, things that they're doing is outdated. And like we've just seen it before. I know that the whole purpose of the show is formulaic. Like I get it.
Yes,
But
yes.
this just feels especially formulaic and not really interesting. But I mean, it's only been 2 episodes, so I can't really speak to what the whole season will be like. But so far, I've been meh.
Yeah, just even like being back at the Bachelor Mansion, the lead, the new host, like it really like takes you back to like, yeah, I feel like the beginning era of The Bachelor.
Mhm.
So, and just to see where they go next, I wanted to ask you about the trailer or like the promo for like the season as a whole.
Mhm.
Clayton says that he's in love with three people, and then
Mhm.
he like declares that he's been intimate with, he uses the words like both of you, so it seems
Mhm.
like both would indicate two.
Mhm.
What do you think is up with that? Like, is that just like again to like each bachelor kind of has to have their thing to make their season interesting, or like that big moment, like the
Mm-hmm.
fence jump or the whatever. Do you think that that's what that is? Or like it seems wild, and we see him in the promo telling three different girls who they are, we don't know per se, but
Right.
we see the words coming out like, I'm in love with you 3 times, which is, I don't know. What do you make of that?
I think it must not be the most interesting thing that happens in a season because there's no way that they would give away something like that big without us knowing the whole story. So either like that's only the tip of the iceberg or there's something underneath there, or they're just like, people are so hesitant to watch Clayton, like we better give them what's really good to get them interested and hooked in. I think, he's probably not the only bachelor who's been intimate with multiple women. Maybe it was outside of fantasy suites. Maybe that's why it's interesting.
Yeah.
I think it's probably like his fence jumps or like the Peter Weber in the windmill 4 times, whatever. Just something to get sensationalized, to get views. And probably when we actually watch it, it won't even be that interesting. Or, it could be because I will say that the fence jump really did deliver. Like it was.
Yeah, yeah,
It was really good. I was like, there's
yeah.
no way it's that good. And then it really was. So
Yeah, yeah. I know because I was like, this was teased for like literally 40 episodes.
yeah.
Like,
I was like, there's no way, but it was. I think the only thing that kind of bothers me about what Clayton did is like if he had consent to reveal that to everyone, like I don't know if every girl wanted their business out there like that.
that is such a good point. Like, that's not just your information to tell.
Right.
And especially, it seems, again, we don't know for sure, but it seems like it was at like a rose ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
And he's standing at the front, obviously holding all of the power in this situation. The girls are,
Mm-hmm.
where they stand for the roses. And yeah, to make like a declaration like that, and I am assuming he doesn't have their consent because it needs to be a big moment with a big reaction,
Right.
I feel like is so gross
Mm-hmm.
first, but just like maybe set up for TV. Like I feel like those are the type of moments that people wouldn't like necessarily do without
Mm-hmm.
production pushing them in that direction. Like, oh, you really
Right.
need to tell the girls that you slept with both of them.
Right.
Now's your time.
Like, and these shows are so unnatural in the fact that they really are in multiple relationships at the same time. So, like, it could have been the appropriate step for multiple relationships at the same time. But when you're doing that, then you look like a manipulator, a cheater, and all these other things when it's like how the show is supposed to work. So, I am just interested to see, like, what that conversation will be like when it does happen and how people are going to address, like, Clayton's behavior versus, like, the women and like if there'll be a less of a stigma attached to him having multiple partners versus, when a bachelorette had multiple partners and different things like that. So
Yeah.
I am kind of interested to see what the conversation will be like.
Me too. Yeah, you're right about like the stigma against the men versus the women. And then like the other thing that I think about is like a lot of the leads, the advice that they get is like treat every relationship like it's individual and separate because you're dating
Mm-hmm.
multiple people. That's like, I don't want to say not traditional because obviously lots of people date multiple people at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
but like for these people it's out of the norm. And when you treat relationships separate, like they are separate entities, yeah, you're right, when the time comes and you get alone time, like that's probably the natural progression. And like in my head I'm like, that's logical and I'm okay with that. And then when I think about me being a contestant and hearing
Yeah.
that, I'm like, I would lose my mind.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Like I know at some point every season, me and my friend Jessica will text and be like, do they understand how the show works?
yes,
And like you
yes,
do,
yes,
like they
yes.
know what the show is, but like actually experiencing it, people forget all the time. Like that's part of how the show is built. That's the reason that they get ratings. That's the drama that they concoct.
Yeah, that's so true. Because I feel like that is like the thing that the audience always says, like, oh, nowadays, like this show's been on for 20 years. Like, you should know what it's like and stuff. And I'm like, after like 6 weeks of not having your phone, just being so involved in something, I'm like, all of that goes completely out the door. Like, I think about when I go on like vacation for like a
Right.
week and you're
Right.
just like not connecting with like your home life as much and stuff. I'm like, you're an entirely different person. So I'm like I just feel like that
Yeah.
is, yeah. And you're right. Like it's set up for people to have meltdowns and stuff. So that's what we all like watch for. So yeah, it's just going to be interesting. I will say that the teaser did get me. It does every season, but like I don't think I'll continuously watch. I have such a hard time watching it, even watching these 3 episodes to be able to recap it. I'm like, the length and the pace is just something I
Yes.
can't do anymore. Like,
Yes. Yes.
I don't know if it's me just like having like a TikTok brain and like just not being able to like pay attention for that long over something that seems slow. Like all the
Yeah.
conversation seems so slow to me. And like I don't know if that's a bad thing about me or just like the show, but
Well,
I can't do it.
I think the show kind of hasn't adapted because like I watch a lot of reality television. So I just watched the season 3 of Too Hot to Handle. It's only like 10 episodes maybe, and they're 37 minutes, 48 minutes. And then my friend and I were talking about going back and watching some old Love Island episodes. And even though they have like 50, it's still like 1 hour episodes. So I think, 2 hours a night with The Bachelor, with some of it not really even being necessary. They spend too much time on some people, not enough time on others. And like, I don't need a 15-minute date with Susie and Clayton. Like, they have a connection. Let's move
Yes.
forward.
That was so annoying.
Yeah, so I do think the show, because I think we all complain about it with Bachelor in Paradise too. Like, I think, we want Bachelor content, but I don't know if the 2 hour format still is what we need today. Like, an hour could be fine, even an hour and a half, but
Yeah.
they could trim it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the most recent episode while we're recording was the Hillary Duff and Z-Way episode. And like on the Hillary Duff date, they talked about the kids like 1,000 times. I'm like, we could have cut 10 minutes here. Like,
Easily. And just cut all of Cassidy, but
yes. Oh my gosh. I know. She, again, is just like, she takes a page out of like a classic Bachelor villain. Like, I'm like, who is this? Corinne? Like, from Nick Vile's season?
And she very much like says things that are like competition based, like when the
Yes.
first group date rose, and like the way she was speaking sounded more like she was trying to fit within the confines of the show and not like genuinely pursue Clayton, which, that's her right, I guess, but
Yes. Okay,
she's just not doing it well.
no, that I think probably was the most interesting part about these 2 episodes is just the way that she is talking about it. Like she was talking to another girl who hadn't been on a date yet. And she was like, "Oh, just follow like what I do. I'll like teach you and stuff." And I'm like, "You were really talking this is some kind of game." Do you watch or listen to Game of Roses?
I do listen to Game of Roses, and I did order the book, but I don't think it's gotten here yet. Or I haven't checked my mail, so who knows? Yeah, I do listen to Game of Roses, but so I think she does have like strategic gameplay, but it's not impactful or effective because she's not really. I mean, I guess Clayton was interested in her, obviously, but she doesn't really. I don't know. I don't think she plays the game well. Like, she's not an interesting villain. She's just checking all the boxes, but she's not interesting. I think this will probably be her last episode coming up, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, she's definitely one of those like first half season characters that it's like, wow, you dominated our screen, but then you're gone in week 3 and we'll never hear from you again.
Maybe on Paradise. I can see her and Shanae both being on Paradise because they love to reward that kind of behavior on
Yeah,
Paradise.
that's so true. That's so true. Yeah, I don't think Clayton actually likes her. I think he just likes to make out with her. As I'm like,
And she like jumps on him, so like,
yes. Like it's just I feel like he's like, yeah, I would sleep with you, but like I don't like care about you
right,
like as a
right.
person.
I think that is absolutely true.
Oh my goodness. Okay, one more thing and then we can move on. But I'm like, this is the thing. I'm like, I'm wrapped up in Bachelor world again. Like, how did I get here? But Hillary Duff and Z-Way, huge scores for The Bachelor. How did they do that?
I think Hillary Duff, now that I know she was promoting the How I Met Your Father, that makes sense to me, which the first 2 episodes of that were pretty good. I think it'll be a good show.
Yes, yeah, I'm going to watch for sure.
I think Z-Way was a good get too. I think they underutilized her because like what we know of her and how cutting and like interesting her interviews are and how like to the point she gets, I feel like she kind of went easy on them, or either like they didn't show like everything that really happened. But I was hoping for her to get a little bit more into Shanae, because I didn't like how, she donned this fake black, I'm gonna be Shanae, I'm gonna be sassy. Like you have to be a black woman to express yourself or be yourself. I just didn't like the whole connotation of Shanae is an outdated negative stereotype. So for her to use that name didn't really sit well with me. But I think Z-Way just kind of embarrassed her, which instead of
Yes,
like
yes.
instead of like, getting in her, she just kind of embarrassed her, which she did look stupid. So
Yeah, like it was embarrassing to watch, but I don't think she felt embarrassed.
no, I don't think she realized what was happening, which made it
Yeah.
funnier.
Yes, that's so true. Yeah, that's a really good point about her like donning a new persona. It was like almost like she was like, I feel empowered, or like I feel powerful,
Hmm.
and like I'm coming out of my like shell. Do you want to like speak to that a little bit?
I think it's offensive for her, like I said, to pretend to be a black woman to feel empowered. And I don't really think a lot of people who are Bachelor commentators really got how offensive that actually was.
Yeah.
Like I did listen to Love to See It, and Claire was talking about it. And I was like, she's literally the only white person that I've heard say something about how this could be problematic. And I think sometimes when things like that happen, if people really aren't aware, they think it's harmless. But I won't say that Shanae is not aware. I don't know. But I think also she knows what she's doing. And the show emphasized it too. And I just felt like it was something that people were like, oh, this is like fun and light, but it was actually pretty gross. And
Yeah.
so I wish more people would have been upset about it. But other than Claire, like, and other black women that I see commentate on the show, I didn't really hear that much about it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Definitely like a kind of swept under the rug thing. Do you think that the producers purposely left that in to embarrass her or to have a conversation like this? Or do you think that they were just also unaware of the harmful stereotypes that it's perpetuating?
I think they just thought it was something funny and cute and like harmless. I don't think they really thought about the impact that it made or could make on how people portray black women. Like, so I don't think they left it in there to embarrass her. I think they didn't realize they weren't conscious of how problematic it could be. And I think because most of the audience didn't see how it was problematic, they knew they could get away with it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so interesting about The Bachelor having these like microaggressions or these incidents of harmful behavior with no kind of like, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but this like conversation afterwards, like just putting
Right.
it out there. Cause I feel like most of the audience isn't having such a nuanced perspective to pick these things up.
Hmm.
Is there anything that you would suggest for bachelor viewers if you're like, that didn't sit right with me, like where do I go to have these conversations?
Well, I know that there are a lot of Instagram pages and podcasts that I follow that have these conversations, like the Black Tourette's Unpaid Emotional Labor. I've been on her podcast a few times. Sophie's really great at explaining, and definitely not like she explains in a way that she's gonna hold you to account, but it's something that anyone could understand and comprehend. So I like those two pages. I think my page, not to
Yes, of
not
course.
to plug, but there are plenty of people who are having these conversations. And like I said, the Love to See It podcast, they do a really good feminist take on a lot of things. And I do believe that their conversations are intersectional in that way. But I think for the casual viewer, if you're looking at a situation, like always pay attention to the racial dynamics of the conversation. Like, is it a woman of color who's talking to a person who is not, and like what are the dynamics of that? And a lot of the times, especially on The Bachelor, the conflict between women, it'll often be a woman of color's word against a white woman. And usually the white woman is believed either by The Bachelor, or when you look at the commentary that week with the viewers, people tend to side with the white woman. And there was one article I did a few weeks ago where I was looking at some of the old clips from Matt's season and just the dynamics and how like Katie was speaking with Serena versus how she was when she was speaking with Victoria. And that's the one I can remember particularly. But the way that they interact, the conflict between women when there's a racial element, I don't think a lot of viewers really consider how those dynamics are at play unless you are a woman of color who's been in a situation at work or another environment where you've had similar conflicts play out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that makes so much sense. And I feel like sometimes when you're consuming all of this content, you're right. Like, if you haven't been in that situation before, it can just go over your head. So, having, I don't know, engaging in the conversation and joining the conversation online, I just feel like is super helpful to kind of learn more about, I don't know, these interesting and possibly harmful dynamics that are playing out on the show.
Right. And it's not just The Bachelor. Like I said, I watch a lot of reality TV, and there is a lot of conflict that the shows lean on to be racially motivated and charged. Like the recent Real World reunion show, when Tammy was explaining to her castmates, like, why these things are problematic. And it was just like a big part of reality TV is putting people of color in situations where they have microaggressions and using it for drama. And
Yeah.
sometimes like blatantly obvious and sometimes it's not, but I do think, you know, reality TV is fun, it's casual, I enjoy watching it because I don't have to think about it. But when there are moments that you see that could teach you something, I think it is important to have that conversation.
Absolutely. I'm a Bravo watcher. Not tons, but I dabble. And I think that network is the worst for
Yeah.
putting people of color in situations that are unsafe. Like, just their casts and just the way that they edit the TV show,
Mm-hmm.
I think is like some of the worst. Yeah. But I think Bachelor Nation, like kind of we were talking about before, has started to have these conversations over the last like handful of years. And I think
Right.
Bravo is actually starting to as well over the last 2 years. So yeah, we're in an interesting time for reality TV.
I agree. It's fun. Like I said, I enjoy just watching it, especially, you know, the pandemic. I'm leaning even harder on it because
Yeah.
of the world being crazy. Like it's a constant, The Bachelor, like, you know, what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know, there are racial dynamics and like who gets chosen as a lead and who gets featured in storylines and who gets seen on Paradise and all these other things. Like that's all at play. And so it's okay to talk about that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And like you have to watch reality TV with a critical eye.
Yeah,
Because like
you
if
absolutely have to.
you have to. Oh my goodness. Like it is a lot of it. Yeah, like I'm gonna watch Too Hot to Handle, like maybe even just after this recording.
It's so good.
But
It's
like
so
you
good.
have to put it in context. Like
Hmm.
truly.
Absolutely. Like one of the storylines on To Hot to Handle, like I think I was just getting ready, so I was like looking at Netflix, and one of the storylines was like one of the men was talking to two black women, and he was giving preferential treatment to the lighter skinned black women, and I was just like, literally had just turned on my TV just to like get dressed, and I was like, why am I already like looking at
Yeah.
somebody and like dealing with colorism, and and it was like the preview, so the show was kind of highlighting that. And so I think it was an opportunity to, you know, see that storyline, and when you see it you'll know what I'm talking about, but then
Hmm.
unpack like why do you think he was like favoring one of them over the other. So I think it's always present if you just look a little closer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Is there anything that's happening in Bachelor Nation that you want to chat about further? Like outside of the TV show or
The only thing I'm really interested in right now, because honestly, I feel like as soon as we say this, we're gonna get off the podcast, and then like there's gonna be like breaking news. Ashley, I'll have her baby or something. But
Yeah.
I'm the only thing I'm really interested in right now is Tasha, because she was hosting Clickbait, she
Clickbait.
was hosting Bachelor Happy Hour, and now she's not doing either. And you know, she was co-hosting The Bachelorette, but toward the end of Michelle's season, she was quarantining and she couldn't go to the men tell all. But then, like a couple days later, she was flying back home. I don't know what the window of her quarantine was, but I feel like something's going on. I don't know if they're trying to phase her out or if she's trying to, you know, broaden her horizons and get into a lot more content outside of the Bachelor world. But I am a little interested in how the post breakup with Zach, kind of how she's been phased out a little bit from like the official Bachelor stuff.
Yeah, that has been really interesting to me as well because we just don't know what's going on. And I feel like it could be a myriad of reasons. Like, I know obviously Bachelor favors people that are like in Bachelor relationships because they're the success stories and stuff like that. So, is Tia still with the person she ended up with on Bachelor in Paradise?
No, Tia has a new boyfriend,
Okay, so
but he's like not Bachelor related at all.
okay, because like that's weird because she was on this most recent season. Yeah,
She's
okay.
on
So
Paradise, yeah.
yes, okay. Because that was like the reason I was thinking that because she's the replacement. Sorry if I didn't say
Mm-hmm.
that, everybody, but she was the replacement for Tayshia on Clickbait. And I was like, oh, maybe it's because she had a really good showing on Bachelor in Paradise and then she's maybe still with this guy. But
Yeah.
I guess that's not the case. Like, it is really interesting because it's like, I wonder if she wants to expand her horizons because she
Mm.
totally has the star power to do that at this point, or she felt unfairly treated, or like they did her wrong, because that's very possible.
Right.
Or maybe, yeah, she just is like taking care of herself. It's been a, I'm assuming a tough time after her breakup with Zach. And maybe she was just like, got too much on my plate. I just want to kind of like, maybe stick to co hosting or whatever. Like podcasts, they're not, obviously, they've got like producers and editors. So they're
Mm-hmm.
not that much work, but it's still like a weekly commitment. So,
Yeah.
and you have to be present. And I think they do video ones. So you have to look
Mm-hmm.
cute and like all of
Mm-hmm.
that. So I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
maybe it was just too much. But yeah, I hope she's well, and I'm interested to see kind of what comes out of this.
Yeah, me too. She did also have the kidney infection or something that
Yeah.
happened. So like she reminded me to drink water because I don't really,
Yeah, I know. I'm
especially
like,
I was like, Tasha just ran a marathon. She's way more healthy than me. If she's going down, let me grab a water bottle right now. But I think something's there, and I do hope that it's like you said, just Tasha moving on to better horizons, because like the Bachelor podcasts really aren't that great. I really
Yeah.
don't listen to them unless they have a good guest. The last one that I liked was when Tasha was kind of talking about not Clayton, excuse me. I hate when people do that. I'm like, they don't really mean, but she was talking about Colton.
Yes, I do that all the time.
But I'm like, are people doing that like interchangeably? But like, no, I didn't mean to. But she was talking about Colton, how basically he lied about their fantasy
Yeah.
suite night, how he tried to downplay it. And I really liked, because it was one of the few times where I feel like Tasha was just like upfront speaking and like being very candid. And I don't think she does that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, oh, okay, Tasha. So something's happening. I really like her more than anybody else other than like Michelle and Rachel. I mean, I like other bachelorettes. I'm not going to say I don't, but I really like Tasha and her trajectory. I
Yeah.
feel like she did a lot for the show because
Yes.
she should have been Bachelorette before Claire anyway. But
Mm-hmm.
she took on that season and saved it. And she had one of the really strong, successful love stories for a very long time. And she also did a good job hosting. So I think she's done a lot for them in the recent years. And so I hope that whatever she does next is beneficial for her and moves her forward.
Yeah, me too. And her trajectory is kind of similar to Rachel Lindsay's, where
Yeah.
Rachel was also commentating on The Bachelor on like Extra,
Mm-hmm.
etc. And I wonder like if maybe this is her time to just kind of like recoup physically, mentally, and
Yeah.
then pivot like Rachel has to non-Bachelor content. Like Rachel's hosting a podcast. They touch on The Bachelor, but on
Yeah.
the Ringer network, like I wonder if this is just kind of her time to just kind of.
I don't know why she doesn't have a YouTube channel, because she's really good with fashion and makeup and all that stuff. So I hope that she launches that, because I know like Hannah B and Hannah G and
Yes.
Kaylin, they all have really successful YouTubes, and Lori and Ari, and I watch them sometimes, and if I'm doing something that I don't need to really pay attention to, it's like reality TV and then YouTube and
Yes,
then
yes, same.
like stuff you can watch and don't have to really watch. But she
Yes.
would really be good in that space. So I hope maybe she's doing something like that or continuing hosting. But I would love for her to step out and not be Bachelor affiliated. I think it'll be a good time, because sometimes you get caught up and then you can't leave, Nick Vile.
Yeah. Oh my god, that's so true. But yeah, that's such a good point. She could totally pivot to like lifestyle beauty on YouTube and be like super successful with that. I remember like sometimes on her like Instagram story, she'll do like a cocktail or like a recipe or
Mm-hmm.
something like that. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, you could 100% do this. And she's had like kind of clothes,
Mm-hmm.
like not clothing lines, but like pieces in clothing lines come out and stuff. So I'm like, this is the perfect time for you to pivot to, yeah, like fashion, beauty, lifestyle, because I feel like she has the audience. So
I do too.
yeah, time to
So
pivot.
yeah, I'd love to talk about her at the end of the year, like see, what happens between now and December and where she goes with it.
Yeah, me too. Okay, we're gonna move on to some royal family updates. I haven't talked about the royal family in such a long time, so I'm really excited. What kind of intrigues you about the royal family?
Um,
Because you're a royal watcher.
I am a royal watcher. I think it was something that kind of happened during the pandemic as well. Like I've always been interested in the royal family. Like I did have a watch party when Meghan and Harry got married. And Megan really was an entry point for me to like really get invested. And then I did go back and like start reading and watching royal documentaries because they're everywhere. Amazon Prime has a ton.
Oh, good to know.
Like they're like old stuff like PBS from like 1999. So sometimes they mention stuff that like people haven't like. I think I watched one from like 1995 one time, and like Diana hadn't passed yet. So it was kind of interesting to see. Like it's just interesting. And then watching The Crown, I feel like I started doing that, and then like opening a new tab and being like, did this really happen? Did that really happen?
Yes, yes,
But
yes.
so that's really kind of how I got into it. It's just like another community. There's a royally obsessed podcast that I like. I started listening to that and following a lot of royal reporters on Twitter and just getting content that way.
I also like the royals for the entertainment, not obviously their like function or anything,
Yeah.
but I think for me mostly it's like the clothes. One of my friends texted me this week and was just like, "How do I get that like I don't know if it was about Kate or Megan or another royal, but she was like, the way that their like coats are tailored and just like the expensive fabric, she was just like, how do I look like that? And I was like,
Right.
I know, like infinite money, but like, but I'm like, everything just like is like tailored to perfection. Their hair is always so perfect and their makeup and stuff like that. So
Yes.
that's just what I'm enjoying of the royals nowadays. But
Mm-hmm.
Kate turns 40 or did turn 40, I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure.
She
But
did.
she did. And the royal
Yes,
family released new portrait pictures of her.
they did.
And they're beautiful pictures.
They are.
And I've been looking at TikToks about like the hidden meaning of like the photos. Is that something that you like look into?
I'm not a big TikTok person.
That's okay. That's okay.
I feel like I'm usually on Instagram or Twitter, and then if I'm really bored, I get on TikTok, and it's just because I want to do more TikTok. I just feel like I haven't done enough, so my algorithm doesn't know me. But
Yes,
I'm
yes,
waiting
yes.
to.
That's a good thing, honestly.
So hope.
Don't go down the rabbit hole.
So I do. I think a lot of. I try not to pay attention to a lot of the like catty way people cover Megan versus Katie. Not Katie. Oh my God. Megan versus Kate. Sorry. I
Yes.
was Bachelor in my head. So
Yeah.
I don't know what the hidden meaning is supposed to be. Can you tell me more about what people are?
People are just, I guess, looking. So there was one portrait where it was like kind of, I don't want to say fuzzy, but like light. The lighting was like soft focused, and people were saying it was very like 80s Diana.
Mm-hmm.
Where there's like photos of her that that kind of like soft focus, which
Mm-hmm.
isn't super used nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
So they were kind of harkening back to like that this might be like emblematic of Princess Di. And then there's the one where she's like looking to maybe like the future or the past, sorry, the one that's black and white,
Okay.
and she's like looking to the left, and then there's the one in color
Mm-hmm.
where she's looking to the right. So then people are like, she's looking to the future, so the past and the future and all of that. I think that the other piece that people are really just talking about is how these pictures and some of the other press, I guess, that they're doing is just like really positioning
Mm-hmm.
them as, maybe it's because they turned 40 and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, maybe they're at the age
Mm-hmm.
that people are taking them more seriously
Yeah.
as like the next monarchs. But I think people are really like talking about how all of their kind of press moves are positioning them to be respected and liked as the next monarchs.
I can see that to be true. Like I follow Elizabeth Holmes, and she does a lot of like she'll take a picture and deconstruct it and tell you where this jacket was first seen, or
Yeah.
this blue is like representative of, like Diana wore a similar blue. She has a really good book that I read called So Many Thoughts, where she goes through each of the women in the royal family like Diana, Meghan, Kate, and then Queen Elizabeth, and kind of talks about their fashion throughout the century and like what it represents. So everything means something. So I do think that the people on TikTok are spot on with that. Nobody really likes Charles or Camilla. And so even though like, the Queen's Jubilee is coming up, so she'll be on the throne for 70 years. I'm actually going to London for the first time, but I'll be like doing a school trip. So I don't know if I'll get to do
Oh my
it's a like you I'm
God.
going with the theater teacher and the theater students. So I get to go for free, but we do have to do like theater stuff, which is still really cool. I'll get
Yeah.
to go to the Globe and stuff, but I don't
I
think
was just going to say, will you be at the Globe?
yeah, but I don't think we're gonna be there at the time of the Jubilee, even though I would love to. Even I don't not obviously not British at all, but I would really love to be there. But I think the Queen is 95. Prince Philip recently died. Like everybody still wants to love and respect the Queen, but we are starting to look and see, like who in the royal family is going to be a constant when she's no longer with us. So I think people don't really care about Charles and Camilla. So Will and Kate kind of have to be like the stand-in and the modern version of like what the royal family will be. And I do think her turning 40 and then being at that age kind of gives them a little more credibility while still being young enough to like appeal to different um age groups. But I mean, I like Will and Kate, they're fine. I still don't really know who is responsible or who said what with Meghan and Harry, so I don't really know if I trust that Will and Kate are who they I don't know if I trust what all went down with Meghan and Harry and the whole thing that Megan revealed on the Oprah interview about like Kate was actually the one who made her cry and like just
Mm-hmm.
all of those things. So I don't know. I'm interested in Will and Kate, sure, but I care more about Megan and Harry. But I do think they have a critical role, especially with Megan and Harry being in the United States and not being working royals. And the Queen is probably looking to them to step up.
Their duties and stuff. Yeah, I agree with that. I think Will is evil. Like I think I really think it was Will and Charles that were super awful to Meghan and Harry. So I've really soured on Will and Kate. I don't know. I feel like that's common. So again, maybe they're trying extra hard to position themselves. Yeah, the Kate stuff is interesting. I think like just the more I've read, not to put her mother's issues on her, but like the more I've read about her mom and just I don't know, maybe I'm reading into it too much, but like it just I think that she's comes off as not calculating, but I think she's way more calculating that we like think. And yeah, I've really soured on those two, but like their pictures and stuff are still like fun to look
Yeah,
at.
I do like that Kate is a brilliant photographer. Like she does take
Yes.
stunning pictures of her family and they are she gets intimate shots that another photographer just would not be able to. So, but I agree with you. I don't like them as much as I like Meghan and Harry. I think that there's more at play with the dynamic between the two couples, and I believe Meghan and Harry were kind of upstaging Will and Kate
Yes.
unintentionally. But I mean,
Yes.
the comparison, there's none. So I think, that could have also played into some of the reasoning and the tension between the two families.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of Meghan and Harry, they are trying to go back to the UK, probably, I'm assuming, for the
Jubilee.
Jubilee celebration. And they have been denied security detail, even after Harry offered to pay for it. What do you think about that? Them denying access to security?
Well, I think it's very disappointing because Harry does want to share his heritage. Is a really important part of who he is, that he is a prince because he still is. So I think, he wants his children to have the same traditions and understand their legacy and where they come from. And so it's disheartening to me that once again, I feel like they're being unintentionally harmed when you consider, what happened with Diana. Part of the reason why she was in a tragic accident, I think, was because the paparazzi was following her and she didn't have the security that she was normally promised. And I think that's a big reason why she ultimately passed away. And so I think Harry also has all of that in his mind going on as well. And he just absolutely will do anything for his family's safety. You can tell in any interview that you've seen him in that's really important to him, as it should be. And so, like, he literally moved mountains to make sure his family has the safe life that he wanted for them. And so I think that it's a shame that he can't go back and have that protection for his family when really a lot of the trauma and negative things that have happened have been because of being in the UK and the tabloids and not having the support of the firm and not the family itself. So I hope that they straighten it out and get and that they're able to go. But I really it has to be disheartening for Harry and Meghan to constantly have lawsuits and all these other things just to get fair treatment. And even though they're living, it seems like a happy, adjusted life here. I think Harry still, wants to be able to share his heritage with his children.
Yeah, that's such a good point that I didn't even think about. Especially now that, oh my god, my mind's going blank about their child's name.
Lilibet or Archie?
Lilibet and Archie.
Hmm.
Thank you. Now that Archie is like of an age where he can probably like understand and remember stuff, it's probably even more important for Harry and Meghan to take them to the UK. So, yeah, that's a really good point of like he obviously would want to share, yeah, like his childhood memories and home and family and stuff with his children. And that sucks that there's been like kind of a hiccup. I'm hoping it gets sorted out, obviously, between that. I When you were talking, I was just thinking about when they moved to like out of the UK, and they actually landed in Victoria where I
Oh
live,
wow!
Victoria, BC, and they were living like 30 minutes away from where I lived. And
Oh
like trust
wow!
me, my family, there was like pictures of them on a hike in this park. Like, and my family definitely went there to
Oh
like
wow!
just
So
to
cool.
like a walk around. But like I was just thinking that was the highlight of my life. I was like that was so fun. Like just knowing that they were like um here
Yeah.
was especially after like such a big change in their life.
Right.
That was just like really cool. I was just thinking about that.
That's so awesome. I would love. My cousin lives in New York City, and she was doing some work with a nonprofit organization, and she was at one of their things, and they were in New York, and she was like, "Oh my God, I saw Megan and Harry," and I was like, "Ah!" Like I.
Was that when they were like doing when they were speaking
Mhm.
for? Yes. Oh
Yeah.
my god, that's so
And it's so cool.
cool.
She was like, "You're the only person I know who talks about this obsessively, so you would understand how excited I am, but no one else would." I would love to
That's
see
so
them, but I
cool.
would leave them alone. I would absolutely not bother them. I'd probably just
Yes,
cry,
yeah.
but be like,
Yes, yeah. I would have. I don't know what I would have done if I actually saw them like hiking or whatever. But I would have tried to leave them alone, I think, but I would just be like, oh my God.
just be
Like,
crying. Like, what's wrong with this woman?
yes.
Does this woman need medical attention? I mean, she's
Yeah.
fine.
I'm just like, I'm just dying. Like, it's okay. Oh my God. Okay, the last royal family story that I wanted to talk about, and like I don't really want to get into the whole Prince Andrew of it all
Oh,
because
yeah,
like
yeah,
leave that to the professionals.
yes.
But I saw this video of Prince William getting asked a question about Prince Andrew, which I think is like pretty not ballsy because it's like you should hold people accountable and like that's the point of like I guess press tours or whatever. But like I don't know, it just seemed in the video that the question came out of nowhere. But anyways, Prince William like takes the oldest play out of the book and just like pretends not to hear the reporter. And I just think it's like I don't know. It's good to give him a little bit of heat, but it's just I just thought it was funny of like I guess the people even with the most press training probably in the
Right.
world still are just like using the good old like sorry, can you repeat that? I can't hear you.
As you know, like from the crown, you know that they can't really take a side or a stance on anything in publicly. So I think he was probably just trying not to take a stance publicly. But when you have the allegations against Prince Andrew being what they are, and the fact that it just took until recently, I believe that he was stripped of some of his patronages and things. When you compare it to how Harry and Meghan have been treated, it's just really abysmal that it took this long for them to actually do something. And he still has private security and details and all the things that they're denying Harry and Meghan, even though I believe he's no longer a senior working royal. And I just hope he gets brought to justice. There are a lot of troubling sexual assault things going on. And I think, it's interesting to see how power and privilege can sometimes insulate people. But I do think that that is now up for Prince Andrew. And I hope that they continue to pursue the case against him because he needs to be held accountable along with the other people who already have been.
It is interesting to watch like the Ghislaine Maxwell trials and just Prince Andrew's request to like stop the investigation or whatever into what had happened with Jeffrey Epstein, etc., and that be denied. So yeah, I totally hope that the victims get justice and the healing that they need, and that he is held accountable finally for his behavior.
I agree completely.
Okay, quick pivot.
Abrupt.
Yeah, there's no way to pivot from
No.
from child pedophilia to anything else. So we're just gonna do it. Kim and Kanye, I think that their news stories in the last like 2 months or whatever have been some of the juiciest stories that we've seen. Like, I really think when I look at like, if people were like, what are the like, top 10 pop culture moments of your lifetime? Like, I honestly think I would include a lot of this because they've just been going back and forth in the press with just such interesting, they're just both striving, I feel like, for the upper hand.
Right.
And it's fascinating.
Yeah.
So Kanye released a song with lyrics about Pete Davidson and criticizing Kim's parenting, which is like cringe. So like obviously he's like affected by the Kim and Pete of it all. What did you think about him, releasing a song that is so clearly is about like he's named in it. There's no nuance or like hidden meaning.
I have not listened to this song, so I don't
Neither.
I can't speak to what it is about. I first want to say that, Kanye West is one of the few artists. I'm 34. So Kanye West is one of the few artists that I've like watched have their trajectory from absolute like just being a producer, no one really knowing who he was, to being the best rapper alive, to being one of the most famous people in the world, to what he is today. So like I clearly remember the Through the Wire video when Jay-Z puts the chain on him. Like it's one of the most special things I've ever seen. So for him to be the Kanye that he is today, it's just like I don't know of a artist who's had that many changes in the public eye. And I do look at Kanye with nuance because, his mother passed and all of the things like he's been through a lot of trauma, and he definitely, we know, has mental health issues that he sometimes takes care of and he doesn't sometimes. And the whole Trump of it all almost made me walk away from Kanye. But I don't know how I feel about whether I would still call myself a Kanye fan. So I just want to say that. And then
Fair.
And I did like keep up with the Kardashians since it was, it was one of my comfort shows because they're so ludicrous. Like it's, you could just watch it. So I never imagined that they would be where they are now. And I don't really take Kim and Pete's relationship seriously, but it is an interesting dynamic when you think about Kim and Pete, and then Courtney and Travis, and then Megan Fox and Machine Gun Kelly. Somebody on Twitter was like, "This is just the same couple."
Times 3.
And I was like, "Oh my god, it really
Copy
is."
paste.
But I do think Kanye, it's not unlike Kanye. He's made comments about like Wiz Khalifa before, and like he's done this. It's not the first time he's publicly called out someone who is involved with someone that he also is involved with. I think, when it's the mother of your child, that's when it becomes like questionable, like, why are you doing this? But both of them have done things that I've been like, why, like, what is the point? Why are you involving us? So I'm disappointed kind of that I guess I'm disappointed that they're at this point. I wish that it could be amicable. A lot of the Kardashian breakups, I feel like the men and I just it always gets to this point with most of their breakups and I don't know how I feel about Kanye. Just I mean Kanye's gonna be Kanye and I'm sure Kim dealt with like some really difficult times. I could not have married Kanye West or had children with him. So I can't speak to how involved of a parent or whatever he is, but I don't think, you know, her parenting and things should not be put into question and publicly on record like that. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I it was kind of like a I think maybe like a little bit of a cheap shot, but I don't know, it's still fascinating. And yeah, like even you're right thinking about Kanye West's career as a whole. Like I think the lyrics were something about like I survived this crash to beat Pete Davidson's ass or something like that. I like literally can't believe I said that out loud. But like then I was thinking the crash is like the one where he got his like jaw
Mhm,
wired
mhm,
shut, right?
mhm.
Like that, like just thinking about, yeah, you're right. Like the trajectory or just like everything that has happened prior to this is fascinating. He was also like uninvited or not invited. I don't know if it was like
Yeah.
you were invited and then uninvited or you were just never invited to Chicago and Stormy's joint birthday party. And Kim, or like sources say that Kim thought that he was doing his own thing with for Chicago, so um they didn't involve him. And then he like went on like Instagram live or something like that and he was I'm trying to get to this birthday
Right.
party. And then apparently he texted Travis Scott who told him all the details and then he attended. Like what?
Yeah.
Like I'm speechless. I don't even know what to say.
My cousin and I send each other memes and TikToks and stuff all day. So that's how I do get the little TikTok comment that I have. But she sent me the video of Kanye just talking about how he wasn't invited, couldn't get the details. It just made me sad more than anything because I don't know, like, obviously, I don't know their parenting, custody, who has what and who does what. I don't know if it was his weekend. I don't know. But I don't think for him to get on Instagram like that just kind of made me sad, that they're at that point where he couldn't come to the party. And if I don't know if he had something else planned, if he isn't giving us the whole story, if him and Kim had a prior arrangement or whatever, but it just made me sad for Chicago. It made me sad for Kanye. He doesn't really have a lot of family or people around him. I just worry about, how things have happened with previous people who've been involved with the Kardashians. And so it just made me sad in general. And I'm glad that Travis Scott told him the details and he was able to go and be there for his daughter. But, his kids, North can understand at least. I don't know if Chicago, she's 4, and the other 2 kids, Saint and Saul.
Some,
I
yeah,
don't know how
are
old they are.
obviously too young.
Right.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
think, Chicago's 4, so she like I think you have your earliest memories around that age. So like she definitely would have remembered if Kanye would have been there or not. So again, I just hate they're both so public with things that happen up and down in their lives and part of who they are is being in the public eye, but I hate that I saw that I'm a random person. Like I shouldn't be seeing that you're not invited to your daughter's party. He shouldn't have had to take it to the public for him to get invited. I think it should have been resolved without us knowing about it. And that just makes me sad because they're obviously not in a good place.
Yeah. There is a tinge of sadness to all of these stories for sure. I was thinking also just like about and not to compare relationships because this is a different couple, but like Scott and Courtney and like how awful Scott's been to Courtney and the family and then like he's still invited to all of the functions and stuff. So yeah, it's interesting for sure. But you're right. There is like a tinge there's a tinge of sadness, but then it is like a car crash where it's like I literally can't look
Right.
away.
They're involving me in it. I'm going to watch it because they put it on Instagram. But
Yes,
like
yes.
Yeah, even with Scott, like that's a good point that you brought it up, and I think he really doesn't have anybody else, because both of his
Yeah,
parents passed. But even like with Courtney getting engaged, I was just like, oh my god, like because if you watch the show for so long, you know how against marriage she was and how she just wasn't gonna do it and wasn't in the position like you. I've never heard anybody more clearly when they said they didn't want to get married. So for her to get engaged, I was like, whoa, this is really, really, really serious. I did feel bad for Scott, but also he was a complete asshole. He was not present, and I wouldn't have married him either. So there's like both of those things that you kind of have to hold. But yeah, it's just it's interesting.
for sure. And then like when I so I'm like, okay, the party, like Kim's not involving Kanye, all of this. Then she posts a picture of herself on a plane wearing Yeezys 2 days ago. So this is like a week after all of this drama happened. So I'm like, are they on good terms or not?
Or
Like, it's just so interesting.
or are they just like involving us? Like she knows if she posts the Yeezys that we're gonna get back into it, and then when there's like real controversy going on in their family, they will have these little stories to kind of deflect from what's going on. So I think maybe it's just like a let's make this light, let's turn this back around into something like that people are talking about casually and not like the actual family dynamics.
You're totally right. And it's like they got me again because it's like this is like the Photoshop incident
Yes.
2.0. It's just
I
like
was
it
fascinated by
just
that though. I was like, why did she do that?
same.
That
Why?
is
But it's
really
for us to
stormy.
talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like you're totally like I don't think that there's another option because it's like what would that be? I think it's just for us to talk about something else and like look at me, hook, line, and sinker, even though I know all of these things about them on and like all of the strategy that they use to like deflect and distract and like all of that. And here I am again being like, what does it mean that she's wearing the Yeezys? Like, oh my god. This is why they're the best. This is why they're the that they've been at the pinnacle of celebrity for 10 plus years is because they do this. Yeah, they have it down. Every time I think that this is the end for them, they just look at like I was like, "Oh, this is I say this I feel like once a week. I'm like, this is it. This is the incident that brings them down." And then 2 months later, I've covered them literally every single episode
Mhm.
of
Mhm. Mhm.
RTBP. Like,
They have such a like there's gonna be something going on with Chloe or Courtney or Kim like or Kylie. I feel like if stuff goes on with Kendall, I don't care. So maybe
no,
she has
yeah,
Kendall's
yeah,
the least
yes,
interesting, not Courtney. Kim got that wrong.
yeah.
But yeah, there's always something going on with some of them. And I think like the Photoshop thing was like to distract us from Tristan. And I think one thing I'm interested about, they get away with some stuff too, because if you go back and look at everything that happened with Jordan, I think that they owe some apologies there. Like the way they really tried to ruin this girl's life, um, off of like Tristan, from what I understand, was the one who initiated everything, and how like he was forgiven, but Jordan was not. And she's literally living her best life right now and could not be happier. So I'm glad that all's well that ends well, and that she is separated from that family because she kind of did need to grow out and stand on her own. But if you go back and look at the way that they were talking about Jordan, it's not good.
No, you're totally right. Like, if they have an enemy, they will literally try to destroy them like at all costs, which is so sad because her and Kylie were like really like BFF, like godmother of Stormy, like everything. Just so yeah, but they will like I'm just thinking of like the Taylor Swift of it all. Like they will try to like end your career. So it's nice to see um when people are wronged that yeah, that they're still like super successful and doing well.
Luckily, she had Will and Jada, because if she didn't, I think her story would have been, she had that avenue to talk, because if not, I think it would have been different.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that was a moment, wasn't
Mhm.
it? Like I just like that was like so I feel like that was like pre-pandemic, and that
Yeah.
was just the height of everything.
I
Oh,
remember she said, I don't want your situation. And I say that all the time.
yeah.
I say, I don't want your situation. So I'm not going to be a part of this. And exclude me from this narrative or things that are regularly in my vernacular now.
I love that. I love that. Last kind of Kim and Kanye adjacent story. Julia Fox, who is Kanye's, like, I don't know, girlfriend, paramour, I don't know,
Muse.
friends with benefits, who knows. Yeah, Muse is actually like probably the most accurate. So thanks for that. But she, I don't know, it's also so fascinating. She came out, she was talking about how she could care less about all the attention, that she's dated billionaires before, and that she doesn't kind of need all of this hype surrounding their relationship, whatever it is. Yet she's like, I want to do a weekly press like news report in Page Six.
Right.
It could be called Fox News, like just all of this stuff like that she's talking about. What do you make of that? Is that a good look? Because I think it's because people are calling her like money hungry and
Mm-hmm.
fame obsessed and stuff. So like, I don't know. Do you let those rumors die, or just like, don't address them, or do you come out with a statement saying that you could care less?
Um, I was not really taking Julia Fox and Kanye seriously for a long time. So I didn't know who she was. I didn't know that she was an actress at all. I just thought he was dating someone. So I think when you put the outline, I was like, let me go look up. So I looked and read the letter. I read the letter and I was like, she wrote a essay like about their second date. Like, so it's like you don't want attention, but I'm gonna pen an essay. So I think, leave it to Kanye to find someone who is more attention seeking and in the spotlight than Kim. Like only Kanye could find someone like that. But I think for her, she really doesn't have anything to lose by being posted and pictured with Kanye. And, Kim and Kanye are like a list height of the most interesting people to talk about in celebrity. So I think she is gonna say one thing, oh, I don't really care, but then her actions and stuff is gonna who wouldn't want to build their platform and increase their position and notoriety. Now she's like a household name before she was obscure. So she can say that she doesn't care about the attention. I think that's just something you say, but you don't get involved with Kanye West if you don't want
Yeah,
attention. Like he's the last
absolutely.
person you would date if you wanted to be right,
Anonymous.
the very last person.
Yeah, especially when their second date was like a photo shoot at like a very public I was gonna say public restaurant. No, like in a public place.
Right.
Of course, it's a public restaurant. And like one of the most
Hmm.
paparazzied places in New
They
York.
both wanted to be
I
seen.
absolutely. I just think because she seems like the cool girl, like like the trope of the cool girl. I think the cool girl move is to just not address the like claims that she's like money hungry. Like I was surprised that she said something because I feel like the cool girl is like,
Mm.
that doesn't bother me that
Right.
people are saying that. Like I'm not gonna say anything.
Right. Which probably means that she's more bothered than she's trying to put off.
Exactly. Well, let's see what they do next. I'm glued.
Yeah. We'll see
Um
it.
yeah,
It'll be
yeah.
there.
Oh, absolutely. And I think this every single time I hear a Kardashian story. Like I wonder when people will get sick of this, and then here I am could talk about it for like 6 more hours.
I don't think it'll be a long time before they're not talked about.
Yeah, absolutely. They just have like Bachelor Nation, like they just have their claws sunk into us. I love it and hate it at the same time.
Right. Yeah. And I think people really have strong opinions. Like either you care about what's happening or you don't. But I think a lot of people like to complain about the Kardashians being everywhere, but then you are contributing to the conversation. So
Absolutely, 100%. Okay, we're going to wrap up with a This Week in Petty story. Ashley, what are you petty about this week?
I like to go to bed early because I'm a teacher. And right now I'm in a group text that I don't want to be in and I don't know how to get out of it. To give you context, I have an iPhone. So, if you have four people, you can click on leave this conversation. But unfortunately, there are only three of us.
Oh
So you
no.
can't leave it. I have like not responded to things, which people have then brought up to in person. Like, did you get my text message? Like, yes, I did.
No, no, not the in person. Did you get this text
I've even
message?
been like, did you mean to send this to me? Like, because, and there was, oh yeah, this was funny. And I was like, but it's not.
It's
Because, like sending people memes and TikToks is actually like really personal. Like, because like
mm-hmm.
you have to know that person to really get their sense of humor. And so, like, the first time I was like, oh, okay, this isn't funny. But then, like, the third TikTok, I'm like, this does not, this is not me. I don't know how to get out of it. What should I do?
I know what is the play here? Like because you hope that they read the room when you're not responding or when it's like everyone else is having the conversation or like liking the post or whatever and you're not. I'm like, what would I do? Because like, okay, my anxiety is so bad that I probably wouldn't open it up, but I would definitely be like, ha 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 ha, or like,
I do.
or like I would like heart it or
I
something like
click
that.
like when I shouldn't. That's part of the problem. I haven't
Yes.
been like, please stop texting me. Get me out of here.
But I would never do that
Right.
either. I think, like, honestly, I'm like, talk a big game, ready to be petty. I'm like, I honestly think I would literally do nothing. I would just suffer in silence.
That's what I've been
Like,
doing. So thank you for your help. But that's what I've been doing. It's just, I don't know if somebody wasn't responding to multiple messages. I would just go to a different thread and be like, oh, I guess she's busy right now,
yeah,
or she's not. Well, I would have taken the hint by now if I was talking to somebody in a group and they
totally.
never said anything, or they just click like, that's still not even really a response. That doesn't count.
No,
So,
no, that's not.
but I often do it
The
when it's like, oh, I don't know anything else to say. Like,
literally, but I feel like it dies out at a certain point. Not this.
well, it will. Like, it'll be a couple weeks, and then it'll be like an onslaught of messages back and forth between the two people, and I'm just like, why am I here?
Ugh, take it to a private chat,
Yeah.
please.
Yes.
I beg of you. That's so awful. Okay, the thing that I know about TikToks too is that you can see if people viewed it. So, like, when you get sent a TikTok, if you open it and then the person goes back to the TikTok, I think you can see, like, if they viewed it. So it's
Oh
like,
no.
you're like, oh no.
They're gonna be like, she
but,
didn't open any of these.
but that's the thing. It's like, I'm pretty sure it's like, read the room, like
Yeah.
it, get the hint, like just
Yeah.
pick up on something that is
Yeah.
like so painful to me. Would you do the like, if it would happen to be four people, would you do the like
I have before.
leave the conversation,
I have
but do
before.
you do the message, like do you do like the explanation before and then leave, or do you just ghost?
I think I said one time that I've left the conversation, I was like, hey, I'm not really in a place right now to talk about this. So I'm going to leave, but hope you guys enjoy or keep going. And that was like during the pandemic when like all of us really didn't know what was going on with like work. And so like it was, first of all, no group message should have more than four people. But I was in like a 16-person one. And I was just like, this is literally making my anxiety like to the point that I need to like turn my phone off. Like you want your alerts to be on to hear from people you want to hear from, but like a
Absolutely.
16 group text message is just like, why am I here? So I did leave that conversation.
That's good. I'm also just like not a text to text person, like a, what you up to type person. Like I really use text to like make plans, yeah, share news or like whatever. So yeah, I get that. And you're right, at the peak of the pandemic, that really was the worst. Like I feel like I was in 1,000 group chats Now it's narrowed down to just, the ones I care about,
Right.
but absolutely painful.
They are. And it's like, I think I get why people make group texts like, oh, we all do this one thing, or we're all from the same place. But if you want to check on me individually, just like send me a message. Like if something reminds me of a TikTok you want to send me, send it to me by myself. Like I don't want to be in a group message all the time. I have like 3 that I care about, like you said. But other than that, please, I will not reply. So,
Same.
but I like it.
Do you? Yes, but I'll put like, that's crazy. Like,
with not have opened anything. Like one time it's gonna be very clear. It's gonna be like something sad, and I'm like, "Wow, LOL." I'm like, "No."
That's my biggest fear.
Mine is like putting the wrong reaction button on Facebook. I'm like, "Oh my god, this is not something I should have put laugh," and then like having to do. But I'm pretty good.
Yes. Oh my god. Okay, because you're a teacher, I'm hoping you get this reference, but no pressure if you don't. But do you know those like posters that hung usually in like elementary school classrooms, but it's like, before you say it, think, like, is it true? Is it
helpful, important,
yes,
necessary, and kind?
Yes, so it's like everybody listening before you start a group text chain, before you send a fucking TikTok, think, is it helpful? Is it important?
Is it necessary?
Is it true? Is it kind? Yes.
Is it necessary is the main one for me. Before you text me, is it necessary?
Literally. Oh my god. Okay, but listeners, if you have a solution for Ashley and I, what's the protocol? Do you ghost? Do you send the message? Are people going to take that? Like, I'm just scared that people are going to take that not for what it is.
Right.
Like, take it really to heart.
Yeah.
So I want to know what people think about what's the protocol? What's the way of getting out of group text messages, because I need that help too. Okay, thank you so much for coming on today's episode. It was really fun.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Where can the listeners find you and plug anything that you want to plug?
I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Ash Talks Batch, and I do have a Substack that you can find at the link in my bio. It's ashtalksbatch.substack.com. Right now, when I'm not talking about The Bachelor, I'm sharing my Wordle. I don't know if I'll be doing that very long, but I got it in 2 the other day. Nice. So that's like the best I've ever done. So if I get it in 1, I'm going to retire.
Yeah, you're like, this is the peak. I'm going to retire after that. Obsessed. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you, Ashley, for joining me on today's episode, and thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, you can send it to a friend who you think might also like it, or share it on your socials and tag me at RTBP Podcast, and I'll share it for everyone to see. Thank you to Nate for editing this episode. I hope you are safe and healthy out there. As always, I'm your host, Tori, and I'm ready to be petty. See you soon. Bye.